this video, we'll be hunting a box of nickels. We'll be looking for any older nickels from before 1960, including Silver War nickels, Buffalo nickels, or anything older. And we'll also be looking for any foreigns, proofs, reserve varieties, or any other oddities we can find. Right now I just have this one box, but depending on the amount of finds we get, probably we're going to add another box onto this video. And I did check for enders, and I don't believe I see any enders besides a couple of older looking reverses, so hopefully we can get some good finds from inside the rolls. So let's start the hunt on the first nickel box of the video, and I'll bring you in when we have our first find. Roll 3, and we have our first find for the hunt, and it is one from the 40s, 1948, minted in Philly. Roll 15, and we have our first couple finds from the 50s, and they are 1954 Denver and 1956 out of Philly. We're already on roll 25, halfway through the box, and the box has been really slow so far. We do have one more find to show you, 1958 out of Denver, but so far we only have one from the 40s and 3 from the 50s and nothing else halfway through the box. Definitely a slow box so far. Hopefully we can get something in the second half to make up for it. Next roll, and we have our second find from the 40s, and it is 1946 out of Philly. Next roll again, and the second half of the box is getting off to a great start because we have a couple more nickels from the 40s, another 1946 Philly, and another 1948 from Philly. Roll 32, we have another find from the 50s, and this one is 1952 Philadelphia. Roll 36, and we have a couple more finds. We do have another one from the 40s, 1941 from San Francisco, which is the new oldest of the hunt. And we have 1956 out of Denver. Next roll, we have another find from the 40s. We have another nickel from 1948, but this one's from Denver. Just opened roll 39, and I see the edge of the first foreign of the hunt. Looks like we're going to get a Canadian nickel right there. And we are, and it's from 1986. Roll 40, and we have a few finds from the 50s. First, we have 1955 from Denver, and a pair of 1957s that are also from Denver. Next roll, we have a couple more finds from the 50s. First, we have 1956 from Denver again, and a pretty nice 1959 out of Philly. Roll 43, and I just uncovered a great find. I see this reverse with the Denver mint mark, and I already flipped it over to reveal the date. We have a 1938 Denver key date nickel. Does have some damage on the front right there, unfortunately, but besides that, it's in decent shape. Probably a VF condition, but either way, 1938 Denver key date nickel found. Definitely the best find of the hunt so far by far. That is awesome. First nickel box has been hunted, and it was an okay box. Just got a few finds from the 40s, quite a few finds from the 50s, one foreign, a Canadian from 1986, and a couple of 2009s, but the best find of the box right at the end, did get a 1938 Denver key date nickel, which is an awesome find. Haven't gotten a key date in a really long time. Super happy to see that, but this box is still a little bit light on finds, so I am going to add a second box onto this video, so I'll be back when I have another nickel box to hunt. I am back with the second nickel box of the hunt in front of me right here, and this box does not have any enders. I already checked, but I do see a good bit of older Jefferson enders in this box, so hopefully that's a good sign. Hopefully we can get some silver or buffalo in this box since we haven't got one in this hunt yet. So let's start the hunt on box 2, and I'll bring you in when we have our first find. Roll 5 is going to have the first find of box number 2, and it is a nickel from the 40s, 1947 from Denver. Just opened roll 7, and I think we might have a silver war nickel in this roll. There are a lot of discolored coins in this roll, but the one I think is silver is this one near the left. Looks pretty silvery to me. Let's see if it is. And it is going to be a silver. It's not in the best condition, but it is a 1945 out of Denver. Has some corrosion on it, but still, that's a 35% silver war nickel. Now we have silver in the hunt, and that is awesome. Roll 11, and we have a couple more finds. First is another nickel from the 40s, 1948 Philly, and our first 50s nickel of box 2, 1953 minted in San Francisco. Roll 13, and this isn't why I'm bringing you in, but Last roll, I did pull out a pretty good misaligned die error on this 1999 Denver. See, the obverse is pretty off-center. I know it's a misaligned die because the reverse is perfectly centered, but this is one of the more extreme examples of the error I've seen. Most of the time I see these are not minor at all, and I don't even consider keeping them. But this one's actually a pretty good one, so I am going to be keeping that one. But the reason I bring you in is because we have another 40s nickel, 1947 Denver. Next roll, and we're going to have another find from the 40s. Definitely a lot of 40s nickels at the start of this box, which is awesome. And this one's going to be 1949 out of Denver. Next roll once again, and this time we have two 40s nickels. Again, a lot of 40s nickels in this box so far. We have a pretty beat up 1940 out of Philly, and an actually pretty nice 1941 minted in San Francisco. Roll 22, yet another find from the 40s. This one's another nickel from 1948, and this one's out of Philly. Roll 24, yet another 40s nickel. This one is 1940, out of Philly. Roll 27, and I just found what I'm pretty sure it's only the second 50s nickel of the box. A lot of 40s, not many 50s. And like the other one, it's a San Francisco 1954S, and the other one is a 53S. That's pretty interesting to see. And also another thing I pulled aside 1 or 2 rolls ago. It's this really odd 1962. Looks totally normal from the front. It's a pretty nice one. But on the back, it looks like it might be missing part of the clad layer or something. It's pretty coppery. Pulled it by the edge because it was a thick copper edge. And I don't think it's a proof either, even though it has really good detail on the steps, which is pretty rare for a lot of 60s nickels. So, it's a pretty interesting find, an almost full step 62 with what looks like a missing clad layer on the reverse. That's a pretty interesting find, not sure about it, but still definitely going to keep it. Let's continue the hunt. Roll 29, and we have another find from the 40s, but this one's actually a better date. It's a 1942. It's not silver, but it is a 1942 Denver, which is definitely a harder date to find. It's not in the greatest condition, but still, that's a pretty good find. Roll 32, and we have another nickel from 1942. But like the other one, it's not silver, and it's not a Denver. It's just a 1942 Philly, but we'll still take it. Roll 38, we have a couple more finds from the 50s, and they are pretty worn out 1955 Denver, and a pretty damaged and corroded 1956 out of Philly. Roll 47, and I knew the ender looked old, and it did turn out to be old. It was this first coin here. This 1940 out of Philly was a reverse facing ender, and also in the roll another 40s nickel, 1946 out of Philly. Next roll, and the last couple rolls of the box seem to be pretty hot because this roll had 2 more 40s and one from the 50s. The 40s were 1940 San Francisco and 1941 that's also San Francisco, and one from the 50s is a 1953 out of Denver. Next roll again, and we have yet another find from the 40s, this one being 1948 Philadelphia. Last roll of the box had one last find, and like the rest of the box, it's another one from the 40s. Ton of 40s in this box, and this one is another 1941 San Francisco. That's the last find, so now let's go on to the wrap-up. Both nickel boxes have been hunted, so let's go over the finds. We ended up with 19 S-mints, 1 foreign, just a 1986 Canadian, and 2 odd finds. We did have that 1999 Denver, misaligned die, pretty extreme on the obverse, so it's pretty cool air to keep. And we also had that odd 1962 out of the second box. It has probably a missing clad layer on the back. You can see it's coppery. It has almost full steps, which is pretty rare for early 60s nickels, and I don't think it's a proof. It's a pretty nice shape, just an uncirculated one. Possibly an error, so I'll be keeping that. That's a pretty cool find. Then we also ended up with 3 2009s, a little bit more than I usually get in a hunt. Now for the older Jeffersons, we got a lot from the 40s for box number 2, and a lot from the 50s from both boxes. We did have this nice 1959 Philly out of the first box, and another thing that's kind of odd, all the 41s we got for San Francisco's, which is pretty weird, and the one on the top is pretty nice. And the second best find of the hunt was that key date, 1938 Denver. Pretty average shape for a key date, probably about XF, but it does have that scratch on the front, which is unfortunate, but still, it's a key date, which is an awesome find. We also had that better date 42 Denver non-silver as well, just wanted to point that out. And the best find of the hunt, of course, we got silver in the second box. It's a 1945 out of Denver. 35% silver war nickel. Not in the best shape, but you really can't get mad at finding silver in the hunt. And overall, with all the great finds, this was definitely an awesome 2-box nickel hunt.